The construction is still going on outside, but we push forward. So, trauma can manifest in many ways, and it can manifest in any person for any number of things. Two people can go through the same thing. One person can be traumatized, the other one can be just fine. It's not the same for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And personally, I've endured a lot of trauma. I've touched on it here on my channel. I'm not going to go into great detail here, but just to very, very briefly summarize, I was raised by my stepfather, and he really just hated me basically, and he made my life as horrible as possible. Every day of my life was spent in extreme terror and in extreme emotional anguish. He was abusive in every way you could imagine, and it was relentless and constant. It pretty much colored my entire existence up until I was 18 years old, when I was kicked out of the house. We also grew up in extreme poverty, and so it was a really difficult time for me. Not only that, but when I was growing up, I was also bullied heavily throughout middle school, mostly middle school, and a little bit in high school. And not only was I picked on by students, but I don't know why, but a lot of teachers used to also bully me as well. After I was kicked out of my house, I ended up becoming homeless, and I was homeless for about 2 or 3 years. I'll say 3 years. And when I say homeless, I mean literally like sleeping on the sidewalk kind of homeless. And that was a really difficult time for me. And the tail end of my homelessness, I had a very difficult problem with substances, and that was a really, really hard time for me. I was able to quit that cold turkey, and I still don't know how I did it, but I was able to do it. And after that, I eventually got a normal job, and during that time, I was still harassed by, management and things like that. But now, the person I am today, it doesn't affect me the way it did before. And I've lived through a lot of stuff. I've went through more stuff than I just mentioned. I also had very toxic, abusive relationships. I had all kinds of things. I've lived through a lot of things, and I've had to learn, boundaries, self-healing, self-nurturing, raising my self-esteem, raising my standards, learning my self-worth, etc., etc., etc. I had to learn every single thing the hard way, and I had to learn it all starting from birth, basically. And I feel like only maybe about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started to fully become a more fully realized, healed person. And I'm still learning because I still constantly go through shadow work. So I'm always constantly working on leveling up myself. And so that's just a little bit about my story. That's the very brief overview. There's obviously a lot more details to it and a lot more things that I can't even talk about online, but that's just, to say I know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about healing from trauma. I've gone to therapy, I've had a lot of stuff. So today I'm going to discuss how to heal from trauma with Santa Muerte. She has a lot of aspects. Some of these aspects are more minor aspects, but they all have to do with healing. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about which colors are associated with different kinds of healing. So if you have any of these statues, you can use them to begin your healing process if you haven't already. And I'm also going to talk about different ways you can use Santa Muerte to kind of get the healing process going. So actually, before I start talking about the white, the first thing I want to talk about you can do at the altar is daily prayers for healing. You can be as broad or as specific as possible. This video is about emotional, mental, healing. And so you're at the altar, you could be praying for healing from specific trauma or specific events, or to heal from specific behaviors you have that you want to get over or stop doing, things that stem from things you've experienced. So daily prayer is a great one to do. You can write your own prayers. Most of the time when I pray at the altar, they are my own written prayers. My prayers don't tend to sound like Catholic kind of prayers. They are more thoughtful prayers, I guess, but they don't sound necessarily religious, but they're usually pretty long. And so one of the things I was doing was I would be praying at the altar for healing. And some days it'd be for general healing, some days it would be for specific events that I want to kind of single out. Another thing that you can do with Santa Muerte is ask her to cut away bonds that you have to bad people. When people do stuff to you, significant things to you, it can create an energetic bond. When you sleep with someone, you create an energetic bond. When somebody harms you significantly, you create an energetic bond. And bonds are created in all kinds of ways. And when you need healing, you ask Santa Muerte to cut that bond. You know, this is why people will do cord cutting rituals. But I'm not talking about cord cutting rituals with Santa Muerte. I'm talking even more simple than that. Just simply going to the altar and asking and praying for her to cut away, you know, these toxic people, to cut them off from you, especially if they're still siphoning your energy, if you think about them all the time, if they are living rent-free in your mind and you feel like you cannot stop thinking about them. You can ask Santa Muerte to cut away the bonds that tie you to these bad people. Sometimes there won't even be bonds, it'll just be in your own mind, but other times the bonds are very real and she will step in with her scythe and cut right through that thing. So that's another thing you can do. Sometimes when we experience certain things, negative things, it can create trauma that is stored in the body. And psychic healers or people who do psychic surgery and things like that, they can see that stuff and pull that out of the body. But for most of us, we can't see that stuff. What'll happen is we'll have chronic pains, problems with digestion or breathing problems or heart problems, headaches. You know, your foot, your ankle will have horrible aches that never go away, unexplained maladies, unexplained medical problems that are persistent, that are like ongoing, things that you've been dealing with for months or years chronically. And sometimes these things are really just stemming from trauma that is stored in the body. That trauma can be removed and it can be transmuted. You need to go to the altar and you need to ask her, you know, if you can, do divination, do some channeling, you know, read your tarot cards, do whatever it is you do to find out if it is trauma in the body. Most people have trauma in the body that have gone through trauma, I mean. And basically she can help you to remove it or to transmute it into positive, healed energy in the body. It's just another thing that people don't really think of, but it is a real thing, and it would be of benefit to you to kind of deal with it head on. So the aspects. The white is basically the catch-all. She is the best aspect for healing in the most broad sense. She is just the healer. If you don't have any colors, you know, white is the one. White works just fine. I have a white on my altar and it works for me just fine. So white is the catch-all. She is like basically the number one. You don't really need any of the other colors for healing if you have the white, but if you want to just have the other colors represented that I'm about to get into, these are some of the colors you can use. But again, white is like the big one. She is the big kahuna of healing amongst the aspects, emotional and mental healing, I mean. The next aspect I want to talk about is the navy Santa Muerte, that very dark blue, navy blue. She is for healing like deeply rooted issues. It's for unconscious, subconscious things that affect the way you live your life, even though you don't even always remember or even think of the things that caused you to act like that in the first place. The navy is a very dark kind of an aspect, I guess. She's more serious. I feel the black works also in this capacity, the black or the white of course, but the black, I guess, because the black also has to do with like the shadows and what's deep and dark and down within yourself. So the navy is the first one. Although I'm going to talk about her specifically in her own video after I film this one. And that will be a video about healing limiting beliefs. The next one is the peach, and the peach is good for healing betrayal, emotional betrayal when it comes to love. The peach is for when people have betrayed you romantically, like maybe you got cheated on or somebody betrayed you, and it's affected you emotionally to where you cannot or will not reach out to people. You feel like you're done with dating, you're done with relationships, you feel like you can never be vulnerable with other people again, the peach is the one that you would go to for that. But of course, if you don't have the peach, the white works just fine, maybe even the red. The ruby aspect of Santa Muerte is for healing heartbreak of all kinds, not just romantic heartbreak, but heartbreak in general. And heartbreak is something that can affect negatively the emotional, mental, energetic bodies, because it affects the whole body, right? It affects the heart chakra, and it can kind of cause, your energetic system to get backed up. And so the ruby is for healing from heartbreak, but of course you can also pray to the red or the white in that regard. The pink aspect is good for healing low self-esteem, for learning to love yourself more. Sometimes, like for me, I was raised and I was told every day that I was worthless, I would never amount to anything, things like that on the daily. So when I got older, it was very, very important to me to work on my self-esteem, to teach myself that I do have value, that I am not a horrible human being, that I am worthy of, just living life. And the pink aspect is an aspect I've worked with for this reason basically. And so if you have low self-esteem, you have low self-worth, you don't value yourself as much, you don't love yourself, you feel negative about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror, you speak down on yourself, the pink Santa Muerte, very underrated aspect. The pink will be your new best friend. For addictions, the amber or the white. I think I would rather use the white personally, but the amber for healing addictions, healing bad habits, for your own rehabilitation in general. And that's pretty self-explanatory, whether you're healing from substance abuse or from vices that you indulge in as a form of escapism or as a result of trauma, whatever the reason. If you are trying to heal something like that, the amber or the white for sure. Lastly, a very minor aspect is the iron aspect. This is from my own personal gnosis, but of course you can pray to the black for this as well, 100%. The iron is an aspect that is just about boundaries, physical boundaries, energetic boundaries. The iron is for making promises to yourself and sticking to them. It's about cutting people off and sticking with it. It's about distancing yourself from something or someone and sticking to it. It is about having an iron tight defense system when it comes to the boundaries that you put in place for your own mental well-being and your own betterment. The iron aspect. But most people don't have an iron statue. Why? Because I don't think any iron aspect statues exist, because it's an extremely minor aspect and I only know about it because of my own personal gnosis. But of course you can use the black aspect in the same capacity for sure. So these are just a few of the aspects that you can petition for and pray to, or work with for healing trauma. I have healed a tremendous amount of trauma. I'm all the better for it, and you can definitely do it too. At the beginning of this, I was a different person. I didn't feel like I was worthy of even being alive. I would always stare at the ground when I would walk. My head would be hanging low. I wouldn't look at people in the face when they would be speaking to me. I would always be curled up and afraid of the entire world and afraid of people. And, I just was plagued with so much anxiety and pessimism. And I found myself constantly surrounded by negative people and negative circumstances that would always kind of keep perpetuating these ideas that I was just meant to be harmed, that I was meant to be abused, that nobody could ever treat me well because I didn't deserve to be treated well. And that was me 10 years ago. And I'm obviously different now, but you can make great changes. And I'm not saying it'll take 10 years. I healed from a lot of that stuff early on, but it was just so much that I have healed from it, from different things at different paces. And even now I'm still working on some stuff, but it's more just to be a better person. and to, show up better for the people in my life. So that being said, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope this brings you some benefit, whoever watches this. Because if you are traumatized or you feel like there's some things you just cannot heal from, I promise you 100% you can definitely heal from it. It doesn't matter how bad it is, you absolutely can heal from it. And you can thrive and flourish after you heal from it. And healing is not easy, but you can definitely do it if you just stick to it. And with Santa Muerte's help, it's that much easier and that much more viable. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.